everybody. Welcome to City Community Development and Recreation Committee. Everybody's got the agenda in front of them. It's a pretty hefty agenda. A lot of stuff that's been on there for a while that we're just kind of waiting to hear from administration on and from Bill Dieters on. So, but if we want to go ahead and start at the top with our report from the Recreation Director, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. This is my first official report, so bear with me. I wrote it all down. So I wanted just to report the Recreation Commission met last on June 21st. Our next meeting is Tuesday, July 19th at 7:00 p.m.
I'm sorry, can you give me that date again? I'm trying to type it. And
Tuesday, July 19th. I can also send this to you. Might save you a little typing, I don't know. Tuesday, July 19 at 7 p.m. Location is to be determined. We had 2 openings on the commission, but I have nominated one individual to fill one of those vacancies, Wendy Fisher, who spoke to council a few weeks ago and said that the magic words, willing to volunteer. So I called her up. So we're waiting on that. I did submit her name to Mayor Nichols so she can follow up and officially, she has to officially make the appointment. So there is still one opening on the commission. So events, Food Truck Friday is coming up, July 15. Unfortunately, we did have to cancel the car show for this year. There were just too many mitigating factors and not enough time, really to do it justice, this year. So, but we are going to be adding a Fall Family Festival and Craft Show on October the 1st in the Goodman Avenue Business District. Basically, to be a block party format. So the road will be closed from Hamilton Avenue about halfway down the road. And any businesses that are impacted are being notified in writing by me in person. So I'm going around to all of the businesses and introducing myself, and we're going to have they're all excited. They are looking forward to it. So next thing I did want to mention is that I have been meeting with the police and fire department representatives to try to get some dates on the calendar for some community events that they would like to do. So we're still working through that. We're going to be doing a program. As you know, we already have a CPR first aid certified trainer in our fire department. He runs those trainings. We're also going to be trying to get a Stop the Bleed class, which is for more first aid as far as more traumatic injuries, so that we do have a connection with Cincinnati, City of Cincinnati, and one of their individuals is a certified trainer. So I just need to get community interest, and they can get that on the calendar for us. Of course, the cram the cruisers and things like that they normally do. So we're going to try to get everything laid out on a calendar, so everybody knows what's going on and where it's happening and who's in charge. So that's what we're working on. It's a bit like drinking from a fire hose, is what I told my husband. But I'm like, there's a lot going on. Okay, so as far as parks, I really don't have any updates as far as Stapleton or Veterans Park, but with Pies Park, I was invited to attend the Clover Nook Land and Facilities Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and Pies Park was going to be on the agenda, but they ran out of time before we could really discuss it. So I met with Mr. Shad on Friday, just one-on-one, and we talked about a lot of ideas, and I'm like, because I need to know what my limitations are, because technically we don't own that piece of grass. So I got to make sure not to get any big ideas that I won't be able to execute. So
Mr. Shad, sorry, just to clarify for friends who may not know, Mr. Shad is Matt Shad, who works here at the Center for the Blind, and he is involved in our CIC and is, I think, such a wonderful person and just amazing.
He's nice.
So just to clarify, in case friends at home don't know who that is.
Thank you.
Who owns it? If we don't own
It's Clover Nook. So
okay.
yes, so, and we actually looked at the map because I didn't have my head around even. Clover Nook basically owns the big, long rectangle from Hamilton Avenue, where we are physically sitting, all the way back to Kleindale. They own all of that, including like the North Creek ball field. And there's a tiny little chunk of land right next to where our city center is, and near where that is, and they own that too.
So it goes out to Galbraith also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so we were, trying to just talk through some ideas and ways that we can utilize that space for the benefit of both organizations, the city and Clover Nook. The other thing that I did want to mention about that is, while I'm on the topic of Clover Nook, while I was at that meeting, they were discussing some potential adaptive sports programs that they wanted to bring into the city. And I said, if there's anything I can do to help, get the word out or help, with sign up, whatever, let me know. We're happy to help. We're neighbors, we're community, and that's what we do. So, next is Shaper Park. I did talk to, or I've connected with Mr. Shaper's widow concerning the biography and signage issue at the park, and she understands kind of the situation we're in. And so what I wanted to reach out to her is ask her, if she could give me a biography, something that we can have. And I would love to do this for all of our historic landmarks, actually, but so that we can have it, I can put it on the website, and when we're ready to, invest in new signage, we'll have her authorized biography, that she would like us to share. So
Ms. Clear, on that same note, I've had conversations with Ms. Mosher on that, and she's a little rusty on building a bio. So if that's something that you don't have time for, I can sit down with her and work with her on that.
Oh, that would be helpful.
Because we go back a long time.
Yeah, we've been trying to get a time together when I can talk to her, and it's hard because we're like,
it is.
She's busy, and
it's difficult. Yeah.
So.
So.
I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, let me do that and see what we can come up with.
Okay.
Is there a timeline when you want this by?
No, I think I got a sense of urgency from her.
Yes.
So I'm going to kind of let her, whenever she's available and ready to do that. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
you. Good deal.
Wise Park, next on the list. I literally 20 minutes ago just left a meeting with Mr. Brooks and Ms. Johnston to get an update on where we are with Wise Park. Pleased to let you know that project is moving forward, and they should be beginning construction hopefully within the next few weeks. They want to have it ready to open on Labor Day weekend because our city is proudly celebrating 200 years of Judaism in the city of Cincinnati. Jewish Federation would love to have a dedication of that park as part of their overall festivities that they're going to be doing throughout the city. And so we're really excited about that. So they're this close to being able to go ahead and move forward on it. So it's...
And then Ms. Clear, on that same note, I had a conversation with Dan Brooks and Carolyn. They happened to be over there, so I stopped. And there was a young couple there that's going to be doing all the landscaping. And for my group that put all the flowers in, the Serve NCH, I just want to let those folks know that are listening. And of course, Ms. Zorb, she was a big part of it. The flowers that are already there, they're going to redistribute them either in that park or somewhere else in the city. But the flowers that were there are not going to just get trashed.
Oh, yes.
So, but and then there's not going to be as much concrete as they initially planned, but I guess that's okay too. I mean, I'm not squawking there. They're going to, really do some renovations there. So
yeah, and they're definitely looking at designs and materials and things that would make our ongoing maintenance easier for that park, so that it hopefully would not anytime soon fall into the disrepair or anything like that. So,
and then just one more question. Do you know, are they still going to try to keep that brick wall that's been there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
And they're going to have a professional come in and do restoration work on that wall to make it more secure and
great.
Yep. So, yeah.
I have so Miss Orb and I went to this event hosted by the Hilltop Church. It's Methodist, right?
Yes.
Baptist. No, I thought it was Methodist.
Hilltop
Yeah,
is
it's
a United
Hilltop
Methodist.
United Methodist
Mhm.
Church.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I thought. But anyway, so we went to an event there where they were just kind of giving us insight. I know Mr. Murphy was there as well, on what they do for the community. And a lot of what they were talking about is how they would be extremely open to working with the city and allowing the city to use their property for events. Because I know at the Recreation Commission meeting, you were talking about needing space for events. So I don't know if you have a contact there at all, or
I believe I do.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because they were very open, it seemed to me, that to host events for the city there and to do collaborations and whatnot. So,
wonderful. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Hopefully that'll lead somewhere. Was there anything else you wanted to report? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I got
Oh, go ahead.
just a couple more points.
Go for
The big project, of course, Dumley Park. I was assigned as the park project manager for that renovation in June 17. So I'm getting my arms around it. I do have a status report that I'm keeping for my own sanity, and also just so, if anyone else rolls into the project or off the project, we know where we are and what stage we're in and what's next. So as I think was mentioned at a previous meeting, parking lot is next. So that's in the works. And I believe contract is pending for the parking lot.
Actually, yes, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
Finance.
Okay, perfect, yes.
Mr. Murphy, would you mind sitting up here just so that the audience can hear you in the microphone? Thank you.
I had a question, and also Mr. Mosby. When I drive by, and I guess if you're facing it from, just looking at it from the Simpson, on the left side there, will that be where the parking lot is? And then will the swing sets get moved further to the right if you're facing it from Simpson?
Swing sets are not going to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
The parking lot will be where the old baseball building used to be. So it's going to
the parking
expand
will be
in
on
toward the alley,
On the
right?
left.
Yeah, it'll
back.
be where the existing driveway off of Goodman is right now. It's going to be in
okay.
that same area where
So you
the,
can fit the 12 cars back there. And then
yeah.
in the front where the pavement is, that'll be where the splash pad is.
Closest to Simpson, yes.
Yeah.
Closest to Simpson. Okay, I was just trying to get
No,
a
that's fine.
visual cue.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And so I know there's some open questions about overall operations for the splash pad, and we are still researching. I am doing an exhaustive competitor analysis, looking at how other splash pads are operating in the area, and the Recreation Commission will make a recommendation probably in the August meeting after we've had a chance to look at all of the data and discuss it with administration. So that's where that will be. So we will not be finalizing that today. Not ready. So you did mention youth programs just really quickly. Facility is an issue, so I'm really happy to hear that Hilltop is willing to work with us on that. Also, the school is willing to work with us as well. So we could potentially use some of the space at the school for some of these programs. I'm looking at adult and teen programs as well. So I did meet with the managers up at Flock Sports Center to find out, what they offer, if they have any other connections or any resources that they can direct us to for that. So they said they'd be willing to help with that as well. So, and last but not least, fundraising. The Recreation Commission is also working on a fund development plan for the 2023 fiscal year, and we hope to have that ready soon as well. I don't think there would be any council action that would be needed for that, but if there is, we'll let you know, and we'll get the appropriate paperwork in front of you when the time comes. That's all I have.
Sounds great to me. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Now it's obvious we're not going to be able to hit that August mark for the splash pad. And so I feel like now that we're kind of accepting that and taking our time and making sure we're doing it right and setting up the right, cost analysis plan and the right physical plan for it, I think that that is really smart on our parts. And I really appreciate the work and the time that you're putting into it, and that it's not, just kind of being thrown together by a couple people here and a couple people there. So I really appreciate that, and I hope that it seems by the head nods, other committee members do too. So we
Yeah.
really, really appreciate the time that you're putting into this and that it's not being rushed. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Any other questions or anything for our recreation director? All right. That was a great report. Thank you so much for that. Next on our agenda.
Would you
fine.
care to send that to me, and I can make sure I have everything right in the minutes?
Yeah, can I send it, it's on my laptop, can I
Yeah,
send it to you
perfect.
after?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Next, Mary Jo, did you have any updates on the Tree City USA stuff or on the Christmas tree lighting venue?
I fell down on the job. I
That's
was
okay.
supposed to get with the mayor about her plan for that, and I did not.
That's okay.
But as far as the financial part, we had a resident donate I forget what they're called, gator bags. So I don't know if you've ever seen those big green bags at the bottom
Yeah.
of trees. Because the tree board, we were gathering gallon jugs and going up there and watering these trees by hand.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It was a lot, because you're supposed to give them 10 gallons of water. So it was a lot of labor. That's the word we're going to use. I guess a woman walking by noticed that we were putting all this effort into it, and she bought these bags for us, donated them. So we can at least now only water them twice a week. Yay!
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you to that wonderful pedestrian. That's great. Yeah, I mean, whenever I've talked to a lot of people about this. It kind of seems like there are the few 20 citizens in North College Hill that are kind of in every group. So I know a lot of people in that board are also in many other things. So no, I don't want to put any stress on you guys, but whenever you get that Christmas tree lighting venue, I'm so excited for that. I'm excited to not be next to a gas station is what I'm excited for.
I believe.
That's what I'm excited for. So
I believe
whenever.
we have a meeting this week. Let me look
Okay.
at my calendar real quick. Yes, we meet on the 13th.
Okay.
At 6:30.
That's
And
great.
I will firm that up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Next report from city manager. I know that there was a comprehensive plan update that we got an email about, and that Mr. Mosby, you said you wanted to talk about today.
Sure, I don't want to take too long. Thank you, Madam
You're
Chair.
good, thank
Basically, I think everybody did receive a report that was given to us through our monthly update, and it was a very positive report. I think a couple of the highlights that came out of that. First of all, over 200 people, well, about 200 people, excuse me, not over, about 200 people responded to the survey, which was great. I think the original guesstimate, people felt that it would be good if we got 100, so we got double that. Most of them came through the online survey, but once again, that's also a big indicator, which means that of the people that were responding, many of them got their information online. So that's going to help us, especially as we're working forward toward the future. And then, of course, if you look at some of the things that were highlighted in there, I think that obviously one of the biggest assets that people felt, or one of the biggest benefits, benefits or assets, was our location. And so I think as we are moving forward and we're talking about what our identity is going to be and how we're going to be able to promote North College Hill, it does seem pretty clear that we really need to take advantage of our accessibility and location for the city. But I do know that again, where we are, basically right in the middle of the county, we're probably at the most 15 minutes from basically major point in our county. And I think even to downtown, I've heard people say they can get down there basically within 10 to 15 minutes. So I do think that we're moving in the right direction. They are going to start the second phase. And then in addition to that, I was fortunate enough to have lunch with the, not only the comprehensive plan lead, but also our economic development consultant. So they are going to be working together over the next several months in order to both develop their plans. It's a good thing.
Do you have the name and the name of the economic development person, and what is some of their previous background in this area? Just general.
Well, his name is Emil Liznyansky. His company is Envision. I think the most relevant, which is interesting, the most relevant experience that he has right now is actually he's working with Madeira. And interestingly enough, Madeira is, some people say that we're like a sister city to Madeira. And the reason why is because if you look at our cities, they're very, very similar. Very residential intensive, golf course, their own school districts. There are some things that they have as an advantage over us. For example, a lot of their customers who come in to do shopping are coming from Indian Hill, right? Because Indian Hill is right there, so they go to their Kroger and their Starbucks and so on
And
and
also
so
in
forth.
general, their population has a lot higher income.
Right, but, which is, one of the reasons was, though, because what they did was they started tearing down the older cottage-style houses, and then they were building up, some of these newer houses that were, obviously that were more money.
Right.
So yes, you are correct about that.
Was it more of a 2-for-1? I mean, did they have to, when they made the larger houses, did they have to combine 2 lots to make the larger homes?
Oh, I don't know about every case. What I can
Okay.
what I can tell you is that, no, pretty much they were building them on the existing lots, but it was just that they were building, slightly larger size.
Bigger with
Yeah.
less yard? Okay, that's good to know.
So I'm encouraged by that. That was the first time we've met. The economic development consultant will be meeting with the CIC this month too. So that's going to be our second meeting for the month.
Something I want to point out from the comprehensive plan report. So at the bottom, there's a word cloud
Yes.
of imagine North Collegeville in 20 years. What do you want it to look like? If you don't know, how you enter in a word cloud is the most important words get entered in multiple times, and then they make them bigger. And I think that's pretty interesting that clean is one of them, and that the next thing on the agenda is the beautification on our agenda. I think that that's important for us and important for citizens, and so it's good to see that in writing. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the cost and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have anything else about the comprehensive
No,
plan?
I just,
Okay.
because everybody did get it. And
Yeah,
No one
no
had
worries,
asked any
yeah. I
questions,
just
so.
didn't want to move on unless you were done. But obviously, we aren't going to do the cost analysis for a splash pad. Like Ms. Clear said, they're working on that. I'm glad that we're not getting it a week after we asked for it, because I don't want it to be thrown together. I'm glad that they're taking their time on it and that it's going to be thorough. But moving down to beautification, all the things in there are things that, were brought up previously. But as I said, when they were brought them up, I'm going to keep them on the agenda until, they're followed through. And I know that, I know Mr. Mersey will probably have more of an update on this. So the land at Hamilton and Goodman was put up for sale or for lease by
No,
UDF?
it is being marketed for sale.
Yeah. So for sale or for lease?
For sale.
For sale by UDF.
Correct.
So, what are you going to do? Kind of stinks that a while ago, to me, it feels like there are mistakes made, but we're going to move on, and hopefully a good business or a nice person will come in and buy it and put something useful there. So,
Well,
So-
I would like to say this, though. This is where I do think that, it would be important for us to be able to have basically a financial mechanism by which if, we the city, meaning, that we would be able to put in, you know, an offer for something like that.
But the thing is that there was already that opportunity when we owned that land, right?
There were only 2 parcels, and actually, if you look at how those 8 parcels are put together, the 2 parcels that we have really are not that big, but they were part of an assemblage for a larger development.
I mean, if the administration wants to put together a plan to buy that land, I think that would be something you could present to the Budget and Finance Committee, but I don't think that just buying it just to have the land there without a plan or with a financial plan would be smart.
I'm saying that, and again, it's conceptually, but the reason that I was saying that is because instead of us saying kind of what you were saying, which, hey, we hope that somebody, you know, comes out and gets that, if we were able to do that, then we could market it and go out and find specific people to get it, if we owned it and or at least controlled it. So that's the only reason that I was you know, saying that.
But we don't. I mean, UDF owns that. So what are we gonna do?
Do we happen to know what they're asking for that lot, that land there?
No idea.
Excuse me.
Close to 8, it's about 770.
It's really a shame because they, you know, we all know what they bought it for.
Right.
But they only bought one. It's, as Mr. Mosby was stating, it's a conglomeration of lots. It's not just the lot that they bought from the city.
Right.
There are other lots that they paid
I
much more
understand
money
that.
for.
But still, I mean, what happened, and I'm sad that happened, but I
At this
mean,
point,
now
it
it's
is what
just
it
kind
is.
of, yeah. So,
Well, we can, as you pointed out, we can talk about it in finance, but I did want to put that in, you know,
Right.
Lisa's, because this is, I mean, if we were to do that, it would be just as much a community development, economic development, you know, type of a strategy.
Right.
You know, for us, and if you think about it, as you pointed out, you know, you look at Hamilton Avenue, obviously that's a big business corridor for us,
right.
so.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off of our agenda for next time. I mean, I don't think it's on our land. They put it for sale. There's not going to be a collaboration there. If things change, though, please do let our committee know, of course. That way we can kind of hop back on that. The LED lights and the street lamps, I know you were going to talk to Mr. Coleman about that.
Well, as I mentioned before, we're at about 70,000 if we were putting all of them in for the.
Right,
for
and we
the
had talked
plans.
about doing like
Well, we're looking
a
for
few at a
grants. I haven't
time.
found any yet,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay, all right, well, I'll keep that on there.
Okay.
I'll update it with looking for grants. That's our last update that we had. All right, Sweet Streeper schedule. I had heard through the grapevine that Mount Healthy is actually asking also for a Sweet Streeper schedule. So I'm glad to know it's not just us,
Well, they.
but
are-
that would be nice to have.
Their city manager just retired, and so they have a new one. I'm actually gonna go over there and talk to the new one this week. And what they've done in the past is they've done a couple things. They've borrowed from us, and then they actually did, not lease, but they hired the services in the past of another street sweeper. And so typically, when you were talking about that, we did the same thing, of course, with Colerain Township, where we would get it for perhaps a week. And then in that week, we would just try to get everything that we could get done in typically in one of our quadrants, which is why we're handling it that way. The fact that we own it now, we don't necessarily, in other words, we're not necessarily limited to those restricted times.
Right,
So
and
it
I
can be-
understand
can
that
be
you've
done
explained
in a
that
different-
before,
yeah,
but
so.
still there are plenty of benefits that we've noticed, and now Mount Healthy is noticing to have a schedule. So, and like you said, when you guys are able to do that, you'll get it to us. So I'm going to keep that on here until we get it. Business code enforcement in the business district. I know that you were going to talk to our business code enforcement officer and kind of talk to them about the laws, and we're just kind of remind them of what codes need to be enforced. Were you able to talk to our business code enforcer?
Well, I mean, our code enforcement officer, Mr. Ikens, is that?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah, because that's who so he does code enforcement for the entire city.
Right.
I'm not sure if what you meant here may have been, because I know that I have talked to the chamber about this, so that we,
Oh, great, yeah.
we would be able to come together and really be more proactive. I
Okay.
have personally in the past talked to individual businesses as well on this, but yes, I mean, since it is a beautification priority, it is something that we are
Actively.
communicating with,
Okay.
right?
Well, let us know if there's any update on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, go, you. go
Are we seeing an influx of code violations? Is that why it's on?
I don't think that there's ever really been an influx. I think it's just been a steady stream of violations.
Consistency of violations.
Yeah,
Like-
stuff like, overgrown greenery, litter. I mean, like, the businesses are supposed to be cleaning up their own litter in their parking lot, and they aren't, and they're supposed to get a
Okay.
violation for that. Things like I said, overgrown greenery, they're supposed to get violations for that. And it's just something that I've noticed a lot of people take issue with, and that I personally take issue with. I mean, if you want people to come to your city and come to your business, you're going to want to have. So that's why I always kind of have it on here to just kind of see if there's any update and administration's plan for that. But yeah, to me, it doesn't seem like an influx. To me, it feels like a steady stream of of an issue.
There are some people who live like on Galbraith. And there are not many, but I'm saying there's a couple who
Right.
actually do go out, like once a week they'll go out and they will pick up certain trash and things like that. But as Ms. Anderson was saying, when you start to deal with some of the bigger businesses, which we're talking about the Roses and the Krogers and things like that,
And the
those
Skylines and
are
Perkins.
those are kind of where you see constant,
Right.
litter, and it's a challenge. I know that like I personally, when I talk to the manager at Dollar Tree, he has been very willing, right, to just make sure that he's more aggressive in picking up trash in his. But we do have areas where attention is just needed on a regular basis. And to be honest, the other challenges right now, as many of you know, while the labor market is just, people are not necessarily going out to quote unquote get jobs. So many of them are just kind of short on personnel. So
I reached out online and sent just a brief letter to Walgreens. They confirmed and said they will get back to me, so I'm going to wait to hear about that. But I did contact Walgreens.
Okay, I know when you go onto the North College Hill website, there is a space where you can submit, like, oh, hey, I noticed this issue at this park, and I know when we asked a while ago, where do those submissions go to, there wasn't really a clear understanding. Were you guys able to figure out where those submissions go to? And
well, depending on what the request is.
so the requests are going through to the appropriate
like
parties?
do the public works or to
Okay.
permits or.
Because
yes.
I still have seen multiple people say, hey, I've submitted this many requests and they're not fulfilled.
We have actually 2 weeks ago, I met with Chief Fells because we have a Gov Pilot kind of program that we've added to that so that we can make sure that we're managing those. Now, I know that I did definitely, I saw, and he showed me initially where there were probably about 50 or 60 originally that had not been updated.
Oh, geez.
So we went through it. Now, most of those that I'm referring to, most of those were like code enforcement issues.
Yeah.
But yes, there are the other ones which are for the permit applications. And if anybody has, for example, a public works issue, a sewer or water backup, those have to go to, the public works department. So yes, they are. I do know that they are getting to those particular departments.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
Yep. No, please go ahead.
So it's my understanding that we're not allowed to have
car lots in North College Hill.
What? I didn't hear that.
Car
like
lots.
selling, cars.
Automobile sales.
Right.
Right.
There is one. They have a new sign up
Where is that?
at the corner of Sundale and Hamilton Avenue.
Oh,
So perhaps we could send our code
Yeah.
enforcement there.
thanks for noticing that. You know what? Speaking of that, also, so I know that the smoothie truck that sells outside of that daycare. It's
No,
not. It's
in
a.
front of the new beauty salon. there.
Yeah, it's there's like a yoga studio and stuff there too. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so I know that with our new legislation of needing like a permit there, do they have a permit?
Yeah, they went before the BZA.
Okay, perfect. That's all. Just curious. Okay.
So is that truck legal to sit there then? That trailer, is that legal to sit there?
They can, yes, they have a permit to sell.
But for, what's the length of time that they can stay in that location?
Yeah,
I
I
think,
mean-
is that kind of where you're going?
You know,
They have
residents.
a cumulative total of, it's 120 days, I believe.
Residents get fined if they leave something like that in their driveway.
That's
So
why they have a
would need to
permit.
get a permit to leave it in their driveway?
No, they need a permit to sell. That's what I mean.
No, I'm just
Okay.
saying, it just flies in the face of some of the folks who have been fined for things like this, and then they see that, and it's like, I have no answer, so.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
let
I
'em
think
know.
I think the answer is that that person has a permit to
Right,
sell
I'll
They
there.
have a
let 'em know
permit to
that
sell,
because
they
they
don't
s-
have a permit to stay in the same location.
Right, but they
The
that's-
permit does allow them to stay in the same location. That's-
And never
that's what I'm
move
saying.
it? So basically, it's a
It's
static
that-
location?
As I said, they have a permit to operate there up to 120 days within that year.
That should have been
But
thought through a little more.
I'll check that out with Bill and
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, if you could check that out. Did you have something? Necessary? Okay. All right. Do you also have any update on the partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and CIC for promotion during Hamilton construction? Sorry. just
No, I have
wanted to know.
not been to the next CIC meeting is, of course, coming up this month. And I did not make the last chamber meeting, so no, I don't have a current.
All right, I'll keep that on there. All right, now into the fun stuff, which is just going to be a bunch of updates because I promise I've emailed Mr. Dieters so many times about the Homeowners Assistance Fund legislation. I also asked him to come tonight. He did answer that email. He's obviously not able to come tonight, and he let me know that. So I'm going to see if he can come for next month's meeting for the firework legislation and to get this done as well. But since we don't have that legislation for the Homeowners Assistance Fund, I can't really do anything. Same with the welcome packet. Since we don't have that legislation, we don't have the money set aside from that pot for the welcome packets either. So nothing can really be done for that. But I will keep bugging Mr. Dieters until I get something. I'm pretty good at that. So on to
I'm sorry.
yeah.
So you said you invited Mr. Dieters to talk about
to talk.
the homeowners assistance fund
Right.
and the fireworks?
Yep,
Thank you.
because I'm guessing we're gonna need kind of like legal backup just to figure out all the legislation with that, just because it's complicated.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Not questioning, just
Yeah. No.
trying
You're
to get
fine.
the minutes.
So then on to new business. So that giant packet in front of you all kind of has to do with what we're talking about. So at the last council meeting, I asked for the legislation that we currently have on fireworks because a lot of people are frustrated with the fireworks or frustrated that people are frustrated at the fireworks, and it's a whole issue. Well, turns out we have very specific and strict, in my opinion, legislation on the fireworks. That is sitting in front of you. That's kind of the first packet. The first page just kind of explains the words that they're using in here and the different types of fireworks. Like, for example, like the novelty and trick noisemakers, like the snake things that you see going and the smoke devices, those things, those are all legal. Sparklers, those are all legal. I think that there's like a spot in here. I know that there is a spot in the Ohio legislation that tells you how far away you need to be from those, from non-aerial fireworks is what they call them in the other legislation. But other than that, aerial fireworks are illegal unless you have, which is on the second page, a license exhibitor that gets a permit from the fire chief and police chief. It has to be in the area where they're going to set off the fireworks has to be inspected by the fire and the police chief. These are all things I've kind of underlined. At the bottom is how much money they have to pay to get that permit. On the next page, I read all of this. You guys didn't have to, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
It just kind of talks about, the only part that I really saw super important in here is it just talks about how the fire chief needs to keep a record of those permits. As I know in rules and public policy, we talk a lot about who keeps what paperwork, so I thought that was kind of important to just kind of make aware. And then it just kind of talks about what can you not do as a license exhibitor, which just basically says unless you have a permit, you can't set it off even if you have a license. Now on to the next page. So this is kind of where the new Ohio law kind of affects our legislation. So I'm going to go ahead and read at the top of the page where I have a lot of writing. No person shall possess fireworks in the municipality, or shall possess or sale a fire or for sale or sell fireworks in this municipality, except a licensed manufacturer of fireworks as authorized by blah blah blah. A licensed wholesaler of fireworks as authorized by blah blah blah. A shipping permit holder as authorized by blah blah blah. An out-of-state resident, a resident of the state of Ohio authorized by, and then this Ohio Revised Code is the one that was recently changed by the Ohio legislators. That's why I circled it. Blah, 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 blah. Now, that Ohio Revised Code is on the next page. But I want to kind of finish on this page here under where it says application. This chapter does not prohibit or apply to the following. And the ones where I've kind of underlined are the fun little ones that you do as a kid. You know, the little like pop rockets. What was that?
You can buy them at Kroger.
Yeah, you can buy them at Kroger. Just the little tiny ones that everybody does. Those are not prohibited. Those are fully legal. And then at the bottom here it says when you do have the permit, when you do have a license, you still must be separated from the the fireworks still may be separated from the specters by not less than 200 feet. Now that's similar to the new Ohio law. The new Ohio law says 150. I didn't underline that, but it's on the right side of the first page. And then it says on the bottom the penalty. Now, before I go further, I know that you know, the two things the council does, we decide the budget and we decide the legislation for their city. I, as a teacher, am really sensitive to legislators coming up with laws without consulting experts on fields. I think it would be silly for us to make laws or to continue with our law that we have without consulting with our fire chief. So I still want to discuss the laws that we have in place tonight and the Ohio law that was just passed, and I want to hear your guys' opinions. But overall, I think that we should not make an opinion on our legislation without consulting somebody who's an expert in safety, like our fire chief. Because if he comes to us and says, hey, no fireworks are safe with the tightness of our residents and our, you know, lack of whatever, that's fine. And I trust him, and I would like to have that reflect in our legislation. If he comes to us and says, fireworks are great, we love them, they're not dangerous at all, then I'll have that reflect in legislation. But I just kind of want to put that out there so that way nobody tonight gets on a high horse, including myself. But anyway, so after this, which is all of our legislation, comes the new Ohio law in a really nicely layman's term way. The parts where I kind of underline on the front page, just where it says, except where political subdivisions are opted out of 1.4G consumer firework discharge. That's us. So this entire paper really doesn't matter because our laws
Supersede.
trump this. Yes, they're more restrictive. So, yes, I 1000% want everybody to read through this like I did. Just to kind of see what Ohio says. In my opinion, it kind of feels like they were kind of sick of people breaking the law on these holidays, so they were like, fine, here you go. Which, if that's what our fire chief says is okay, then I'm okay with that, but I don't know. On the next page, it kind of talks about, can local governments establish prohibitions on fireworks discharge in their community? Yes. So it just kind of talks about, hey, we're allowed to do this if we want to make further whatevers. The next big section just talks about how you can qualify as a licensed exhibitor, and then what do the physical areas need to be to get that permit. A lot of it in here says it depends on your local fire code, like for your county and for your municipality. But I just feel like it's interesting to see, especially when we do talk to Chief Fells on our next month's meeting. Lastly is the statement that was put out by our police department for the 4th of July weekend. I just wanted to have it here in case anybody did want to discuss it or it did get brought up. I don't want it to be he said, she said, or oh, the statement said this. We have it right in front of us, so that way everybody can see what it says in case anybody brings it up or if anybody hasn't seen it and wants to read it. But that is all the paperwork in front of you, just so you're aware. Does anybody have, I'm sure we all do, any opinions on any of this at all so far?
I do.
Yeah.
I like fireworks just as much as everyone else.
Yeah.
But, I tend to err on the side of caution. A controlled area where everyone is safe because,
Right.
so many accidents happen. I work in the medical field.
Right.
So I know about it firsthand. So like I said, I like fireworks just as much as anyone else, but if the law says that, hey, it has to be this way,
Right.
that's just how it is. And I'll just, go to an area where they have those safety precautions in
Right.
place.
Well, and that's exactly what I feel too. I mean, if there is a way for us to safely have aerial fireworks in our city, then great. I think that should be available for residents to decide on their own. But if it's not a safe place to have that, then I don't think that we should change this law. But, I do think either way, whether we're going to change it or not, it needs to be discussed because it's obviously not a prevalent in everybody's mind of our executive branch who needs to enforce these laws. So either way, I mean, next month, Chief Schran and Chief Fells have both agreed to come next month to kind of talk about this and what their opinions are on it too, and if they feel like it needs to be changed or revised.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, as recreation person, I'm wondering if other cities or other smaller municipalities that have citywide fireworks events experience
That's much of an
fewer
issue, right?
residents setting off their own.
That's a good point, yeah.
So, I wonder, since we don't offer anything, maybe we could look at Juneteenth or something next year.
Yeah.
And look at how other cities are doing this. Are they experiencing fewer people deciding to do their own thing if the city itself is putting on
Right.
a 20-minute display that everybody can come and enjoy
Right,
safely?
right. No, I think that's, I mean, I know Mount Healthy does theirs. I mean, I can see Mount Healthy's from my backyard, so
Right.
that's kind of nice.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, I was going to say too that Mount Healthy has a really nice fireworks
Yeah.
display, heavy dollar. It's not cheap,
No.
and yet residents all over Mount Healthy.
Right, still.
Still, so once you've let this cat out of the bag,
Right.
it's impossible. It's like trying to put toothpaste back in a tube.
Right.
You can't do it. And if you've ever ridden with the police, even on just a summer night, because you'll hear fireworks go off throughout the city.
Right, right.
Not like the holidays, but I said this earlier tonight, trying to squell the people that are shooting off the fireworks in their own yard, and some of them are in the street, which is completely illegal.
Oh, yeah.
It's like herding feral cats.
Right.
And we only have a limited number of officers, and we're down officers.
So I want to stop you there. I'm going to interrupt you because I think you're right, and I think that is something to take into consideration, and that's why I invited Chief Strand to be here. At the same time, there's a difference between having a legitimate understanding of, okay, on the 4th of July, it's going to be kind of hard to, enforce these, and hey, we're going to have to kind of give some leeway and some discretion, and putting out a statement blatantly disregarding the legislation and saying firework purge for this
I see
weekend.
where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Also.
So I completely agree with what you're saying, where, hey, it is really hard, and I have compassion for them, and I understand, yeah, that's going to be absolutely impossible to get, 50 people in a police car because they're setting off fireworks for their kids. Like,
Talk about the
I get it.
cruiser.
I'm not saying, hey, I want the police department to go out and arrest everybody who does this. What I am saying is it's inappropriate to post a statement. And if there's going to be disdain from our police chief saying, hey, I'm not going to enforce this, well then, okay, well, let's invite him here and say, so how can we change this law so that you will enforce it? Because I don't know, I'm kind of sick of fighting. I'd rather just come together and figure out a way so that our citizens can be safe. And if Brian Fells, who I trust with my life, comes back and says, absolutely not, we're not changing this legislation, his word is God to me when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, but I'm really glad that they honestly said they couldn't come tonight, because I did want to kind of talk about this with all of you guys beforehand.
So can I chime
Please,
in?
please.
So a couple things. First of all, Ms. Ewald, please hear the message that I'm trying to say. Just because that the police department is short-staffed, we cannot write legislation according to their staffing.
Yep.
I didn't ask that.
No,
Yep,
I'm just saying,
I agree.
the laws are the laws, and if they're short-staffed, then that's a problem that they need to solve. The other part of this is, I was wondering if perhaps when the PD and the FD arrive, they could bring some type of documentation that shows how many injuries there were from the FD, if they've had any injuries or anything like that, any kind of reports, and if the PD has given out any citations.
I will go ahead and start an email right now so I don't forget to send it later. But yeah, no, I think that would be great. Sorry, I just want to make sure I start a draft, or else I'm going to forget to send it altogether. Okay. Yeah, no, I think that would be absolutely great. Any other? I want everybody to be able to kind of think this through before Ryan and Brian join us. Oh my goodness, you are so welcome. It was kind of nice to sit down and do real work. Honestly, been kind of bored. If anybody has anything else you want me to read through. All right, well, if nobody else has anything else that they want to say, we have 5 minutes, and this has been on my agenda for way too long. So I want to talk about it. Signage for the city entrances. Now we have those small, like this size blue signs at our 4 biggest entrances. And then in my opinion, I think the sign that we have off of Cross County is really pretty, and I really like it. It does need some sprucing up. But I would like to know if administration could kind of look into how much money it would cost to spruce those up or to get bigger signs. Specifically, I know that we've talked about this before, and somebody yell out if I'm wrong. I think what we're kind of looking for is the 4 main entrances coming down from Hamilton, in from College Hill, coming in, the one that we already have that's really pretty, coming here from Galbraith, and coming here from Galbraith. Is there any way that we could kind of get some information on how much that might cost or what you guys might be looking into?
Yes.
That'd be
Can I
great. Please.
Just make a note.
Please.
So the area that has the sign that I think we all really are proud of, that's very unique. The rest of the locations where you see those blue signs, it's pretty much residential, or in some cases, there's a business close by.
Yeah.
So we don't have the property
Right.
to erect it.
You're
So,
right.
yeah, I'd love to see those on every
Right.
quadrant.
I think it would have to maybe be like a partnership with those, because the one on Galbraith is the Clovernook Country Club. So I wonder if we could kind of talk with them and say, hey, can we get like a corner of your property to put a sign? The one coming this way from Galbraith is our city center. I mean, I know that the city line starts before that, but the kind of first big thing that you hit is our city center. I feel like that would be easy. And then coming down from College Hill, yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess the first big spot that we have, like that chiropractor that's up there.
Yeah, because the corporation
Dollar
line heading
General.
north on Hamilton,
Yeah,
that
maybe talking
corporation
Dollar
line
General.
is down there by, is it Larry?
I think it's Oak Knoll, and
There's a street just south of that.
Even
Right.
if we
No, the
just
last
put a
street
big,
is Tremont.
Tremont, that's
even if
what
we
I'm
just put
thinking of.
a sign, a large enough sign out in that easement, we don't need anyone else's
Out in the what?
in the easement, in the grass between the sidewalk and the street.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just like a
So
nicer
just size it
looking-
accordingly.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, maybe if you guys could get us some information on where you would suggest, on where you guys would like to put them and how much it would cost.
Yeah, talked about that, but basically, what we would be looking at would be Laboido, Simpson, Savannah, Betts, not necessarily in order, Clovernook, and Bobolink. And those would be the ones that we would have. And Ms. Zorb is absolutely correct. They would be larger signs, more like a 4x6. That would be larger than the 3x5s that are typically up, but they would be more prominent, and people would be able to see them as they're coming into or leaving out. Well, excuse me, more coming into the city.
Right,
So,
but
yes,
I think
do-
what
they
what
are.
we're talking about is different though. We're talking about like a nicer looking, not just like on a post, right? Or are we talking about just having a nicer one on a post?
I think what she was talking about were the ones that were on the post,
Right.
because those would not require, as you pointed out, like, using any land or anything like
Right.
that. They would
Yeah.
just be a sign, but it would be large enough so that when a person's coming in, they would be able to see
Right.
prominently that we're
All right.
coming into North College.
But yeah, I mean, that works for me. I mean, I know that also our city doesn't have the biggest budget, so I understand. Yeah, that works for me. Yeah, if you could just get us some
What
information for
I
that.
would say, however, and I will tell you that I'm going to be talking to ODOT as well as our engineers about this. I don't know if you all have noticed, but one of the things that I have seen absolutely over the past few years, the bridges that are crossing over, like, 75, or for us, Ronald Reagan is crossing over Hamilton.
Right.
On those bridges, they have these signs that actually have the city name.
Yeah, I know. what you're
So
talking
Cincinnati has it there, and I guess that would really be kind of like Bond Hill,
about. Right.
right?
No, I know
And
what you're talking
then there are several other ones. I believe Madeira has one. Anyhow, we're seeing those more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bond
so
Hill.
I believe
Incredible
that
one.
that's one that would be a very nice gateway to come in. to
Yeah,
North
I
College
agree.
Hill. So I'll talk to them to see, and now they may be a little ways off, but at least we can get it in.
Yeah, but yeah,
Get
I
it
mean,
in
if you
queue.
could get us that
Yeah.
information, I'll keep it on our agenda like I always do until kind of comes to a close. But I appreciate that. Yeah. Anybody else on signage or any other new business? No? All right,
Make a
right
motion, we
on,
adjourn.
right on time at 7:30. Thanks, guys.
Ms. Orb.
7:36. Thank you guys for being patient. I think the first thing on our agenda is, did you all have an opportunity to look through the notes or the minutes? Any major opposing? They're there. You guys okay with them? Okay. The first thing on our agenda is the Dunley Park resolution, and I did send those out, the documents to support that very last minute. If you don't have them, you can use my computer. Do you guys have them? Did you guys have a chance to look at them?
I did take a look at it, and I guess I feel like I don't have enough information because it looks to me like the legislation just says work to be completed. And then when the picture of there was an image of the contract and it was just page 31, and it's still, I'm waiting for the beef.
Okay.
Like there's no meat there.
Okay. The beef is the parking lot, and it's over the amount of Mr. Mosby's approving amount.
But that's what I'm saying. So none
Not
of
on
that
the
is
document.
none of that is in that document.
Mr. Mosby,
None of
you
that
wanna-
is in what was sent to us anyhow.
That is correct. We sent the summary of the contract itself, because the proposal, which we had received, you know, we had that. It gives all the detail. The key would be the amount, as you had mentioned before. So let's put it this way. It can certainly wait. I mean, I was putting it out here now so they could be looked at for August, because we only have one meeting in August. If it is not passed, then it'll just have to wait until it gets passed. But if we want to get it done, it needs to be passed in August. We wanna
In
get them started
August?
on it. I mean, it was, yes.
Okay. Can we send out via email the proposal?
And dollar amounts? I mean, there's really no substantial information in the documents that were sent to us. The details are lost.
Did you say this legislation needs to be passed in August?
Yes.
Well,
No, I did say that.
it doesn't need to be. Right?
I think if we're going to get
if-
started
if
this
we-
year, right?
If we
Right,
really
I mean-
want to, if we really want to cut down to the nuts and bolts, council only very recently heard that it wasn't even going to be completed in August. We were under the understanding that it was going to be complete in August.
Yeah, but that wasn't due to our control, right?
I'm not saying it was anyone's control. I'm just saying that was our understanding, and now we're hearing we need to pass this in August to get more funding. I mean,
It isn't to get additional funding, Ms. Orb. It is to get the park complete. You already passed in the 2022 budget money for that, which I had saved.
that's
stated before.
contrary to what Ms.
No,
Dukes
no, no,
Dean
no.
just said. She said additional funding.
No, I didn't say additional. I said it's over the amount
Correct.
that Mr. Mosby's. If I said additional funding, I didn't mean to. What I was trying to convey is that it is over his approval amount. I think his approval amount's $50,000, right?
I'm with you now.
And then, so this
I
was
heard over the amount, and I assumed it was over the amount. And that's what
No,
no
not-
dollar amounts in the document kind of gets, that
Touche.
misunderstanding.
No. That's fine. So I'm just saying over his approval amount, so it has to come before us
Got it.
to be able to get it through, but it is not changed. So if we can get the proposal just to verify those numbers, I mean, that's an easy fix.
Here's what I'm kind of thinking. So I understand wanting to kind of approve this contract and get it for the price it's at now, especially because, you know, the longer you wait, the more the price goes up. This is the cheapest you're going to get this contract. I understand that, but it's also that, like, we talked about in our last committee meeting, we want to make sure it's done right. and I don't want to rush something without having the information on it. So I don't feel comfortable at all with this piece of legislation. Like Ms. Sorb stated, we don't have enough information on it, and I want to make sure things are done right, and that it's, you know, with the checks and balances of the, you know, financial body of the government.
So that's what I'm kind of proposing. Can we send out the proposal via email? That gives you the rest of July to kind of view it. And if you don't feel comfortable, we won't push it forward. Just send me those notes back and I'd be happy to, you know. Are you guys okay with that?
I'd like the
Give
information.
me the
so
dead
yes.
stare. What's that mean?
So,
Do you all?
So I just wanted to recap, if you send us an email, we need to be careful on how we respond to that. So I
Just
think
don't
that's
reply all.
under that category of, you know, Open Meetings Act. You can't really
That's fair.
respond.
You can reply, you just cannot reply all.
Okay.
Well, but then never mind.
No, go ahead. Say what you
It would be like the telephone game. What if all 7 of us, or all 6 of us decided to reply? You know what I'm saying?
It's perfectly acceptable.
Well, I guess
I-
this is what I would say. If you guys look at the proposed numbers and at some point you say, hey, that's normal email response, like, Mr. Mosby, what is this? Or
Right.
whatever. We could do that. And then I can understand if we need to go forward or not, or this, you know, we'll understand if we need to table that. So if you guys are just fine with receiving the proposed document, then we can go from there. So that would get us on the, at least projectively on the agenda for August. If not, we want to do it right. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay. So if you guys are squared away with that, I just wanted to remind you that we won't be receiving our financial report for July. We'll get it in August for the quarterly, which is going to include June. I just want to put it out there a couple times so we get used to that one. And then the building renovations is next on the agenda. And I have to read my notes on this one because I don't want to get this wrong. Okay, so where we are in that, and I just want to, on a monthly basis, give everyone updates. I know we just met on the 21st, but we're in the process of getting an estimate so that we can get the RFP and focus on the purpose of what we're going to do on the building itself. Like, there's a bunch of ideas out there about how we can modify that. I also wanted to loop back for you when we talked about the ordinance. We checked, and there's no ordinance to demolish the building.
Okay.
She said
I
that.
couldn't
Oh,
find
I'm
anything.
sorry. I know somebody said
No.
there's no,
Her turn.
no, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because I look back too, and I could have sworn there was legislation for that. I still have a few more people I want to talk to see if they would have that in legislation, but I don't know.
That's fair. If you find anything that indicates that, and you can point me in a more specific space, we can go from there. But for now, I don't know what else to do, but it isn't there for now.
So
So-
did anyone go through that big cabinet in the caucus room to look through, like, the year before or year after? 2016,
the years
2017,
20
2018?
This is the years I wrote down, 17, 18, and 19.
Okay. Okay.
So do you have any indicator outside of that?
No, just people who, you know, I don't know if they've saved their paperwork or not. So, but no one went through the cabinet to look through the year 2016 on the hard copies? Or 2017 on the hard copies?
I can go back and do 2016 if you'd like.
I mean, on the actual hard copies in the cabinet.
That's what I mean. I can go
Okay.
back and do 2016 if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay.
So I know we're waiting on an estimate for like a contractor for the building renovations, but would we even be able to get an estimate without a plan of what we want to do?
Well, yes and no. No, we're not going to get an exact estimate of what it is that we're going to do, but there's some things that we have to do regardless of what direction we
Right.
go in. And so we want to kind of get a scope of that work. And the estimate isn't like tomorrow.
Right.
So some of this stuff we're working on at the same time because administration has their part of the work that they need to do. And then we as council have our part of the work that we need to do. And personally, I just want to do this together.
Yeah.
So,
Especially, I mean, it's our space that we're going to be in.
yes.
The other question I have, I mean, I don't know a lot about building renovations, so bear with me. So does the contractor come up with like the plan? The most I know about building renovations is from HGTV. I'm going to be honest. So I mean, like, if we're talking like, did they come in and kind of tell us, hey, this is what they want to build, or like, do we come to them and say, this is what we want to do? What exactly is that?
So that's where the RFP comes into play.
Okay.
So we would, or administration, someone comes up with a rough scope of what we would like to have done, what
Okay.
we'd like to have fixed. You put that in RFP, it's a request for proposal.
Right. I know
And
about
you
that.
give that, you blast it out to
And they
different
come back,
contractors.
and then they come up with a plan for us.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Suggestions.
So
They usually have diagrams and ideas of the concrete or
Right.
whatever textures they want to use and stuff
so
like
then
that.
so then are we coming? Because you said we want to do this together. Are we coming up with that list for the RFP together?
No. First thing that has to happen is you have an engineer who then comes in, they look at the building itself. They're the ones who begin to lay out the plan, and then they give a scope of what the estimate would be. They coordinate with whatever renovations would have to be done. In this case, HVAC would be part of it, plumbing, they would have to do renovations of if we kept it, in essence, the way it is, with the basic skeleton that we have now, they would have to renovate the bathrooms as well as some of the older rooms on that side.
Right.
So the engineer would get that information together, and from that, get a scope of work and then an estimate of what that would cost.
So the engineer, and do we need an RFP for this engineer to come in? Or-
It depends on how we do it. There are a couple of ways. We're part of a co-op in which you don't necessarily need that. However, I do believe that the mayor has said that she definitely did want to do an RFP. So we're working on that estimate now, which we should have probably by September, so.
So
that's what
this
we're doing.
engineer, so we're getting an RFP for the engineer to come in and then give us a list of what needs to be done, and then we're gonna do an RFP for a contractor?
The engineer or the group that I'm working with now is going to actually give us an estimate based on what they're looking at, based on also what we propose to do with the building itself.
Hold on, so
Community development. Go ahead.
I'm confused. So we're getting an RFP for the engineer.
I have a group that we're working with that will give us an estimate. They're an engineering
Okay,
group
because I thought you said that that the mayor wanted you to get an RFP for the
Cool.
engineer.
for the construction project itself.
Okay, so that's, yeah, because that's not what I asked. So then we already have an engineer coming in
We
who's
have
going,
someone I'm working with, yes. to-
Okay.
to-
and they're gonna give us a list of things that need to be done. Are we then going to give them a list of things that we would like to get done?
Yes,
Okay, and so then based on that, then we're gonna put together the RFP.
correct.
We're gonna
That is
get a construction contractor, they're gonna come in. So then, the estimate really can't be done until after you work with this engineer.
Correct,
So,
correct.
So
That's
then-
why, and that's why we're doing it, so that we
right,
can get it.
so we won't really get an estimate to put, okay, okay, thank you.
So-
That was helpful for me, and I hope for others.
So what I would like to add to that is it's just going to be so many phases because there's getting the building, I mean, there's no sense in getting an estimate on this big, huge project that we may not even be able to do. Like you said, first of all, we're still going to go back to 2016 to make sure that the building isn't deemed that we were supposed to demolish it. And then the other thing is maybe we can't, it's just not usable. So we have to kind of start the process for them to look at it, to say, hey, can we even do these things? Is it feasible? Do we tear it down and go from there? We don't know that.
So this is kind of like a feasibility study.
Yes, and I was gonna say that the feasibility, and we're also in the process, like we're gonna the economic developer. I would like to talk to them. We should talk to them to kind of scope what is going to be best to put there. None of us are gonna be able to like be the expert about that.
Right.
So, like I said, some of this is things that we're doing in correlation. We wouldn't even be able to kind of decide purpose until we know how extensive the work is going to be. So that first phase of the estimate, to my understanding, and Mr. Mosby can confirm, is like kind of getting us in the ballpark of what is going to be needed.
Correct.
Okay. So, Marjorie, I
Yes.
apologize if I was confusing to put that out there, but that's kind of like, it's just going to be more than one phase.
Oh yeah, for sure. I got that.
Because it's a really big project.
Yeah. I was just, I hope I wasn't the only one in the
No,
more
it's good.
College Hill
It's
who
good
didn't know how all
questions.
this works. So hopefully that
Good
that
questions.
discussion wasn't just for me. But no, that clarified it.
I'm
Thank you.
gonna switch up just for a little bit if no one else has any more questions on process.
I just have one more question.
Mhm.
So I'm understanding it that you're already working with someone, so it's not going to be bidded out? I
It,
mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure where that stops and starts.
Right now, there is no bid, but what I'm using is the same firm that actually gave us the estimates for just the council chambers themselves. So they had already come through, they looked at they gave a preliminary inspection of the other side of the building, I'm calling it that, if you all don't mind.
Right.
And so I've talked to them, and they will come back to give us, again, it's just, as Ms. Dukes-Dean said, it's simply an estimate of what they were saying would go into, repairing that side to bring it back online.
Okay,
That's
so
what they're gonna do.
I don't know, maybe you asked too many questions and now I'm just really confused. But so when we did the roof, I believe we had bid openings on who could give us the best offer to do that roof. So that's not going to happen with this process?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in order for us to get an informed bid, an informed estimate, it would be no different, quite frankly, than when we send out a bid for street repair. When we do a bid for the street repair, our engineers come in and they do what is a cost estimate.
Okay.
And that gives us an idea of what we think it's going to cost. So then that way, if the bids come in, then we'll know, okay, these are like significantly over
Right,
what
okay.
we're looking at.
Okay,
So
thank
that's
you.
what we're doing.
And that,
I will say this too, I don't know of any legislation that as you mentioned, that ordered a demolition of that half. But I would like to say, just for those who may not have been here, it was considered an option, but there was a concern. And the concern was that the age of the building was such that they perhaps used asbestos in the construction of the building. And if we did a demolition of that, we did not know to what extent there would have to be remediation and removal of asbestos, and that could have been, that could be
Yeah, you're right.
very
That-
cost prohibitive.
That was discussed as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So the building itself, at the time, I think the estimate that I had received was around $350,000, but that was just a demolition of of that side of the building without asbestos removal. If you add that in, that would be much more significant.
Okay, the second part of that third thing is, do you guys have purpose? Have you given any thought to things that you feel like might be purposeful in that space?
I know that we talked about on the west side of the building, possibly making space for recreation activities or for kind of like a common room. I know a lot of people, so I know Mount Healthy in their like pool area, they have like a room that you can rent out through the city for like parties. I didn't know
Oh,
we
yeah.
used to
Mhm.
have one, because I remember we used to have like our graduation parties and birthday parties in the basement of the police station, and that was kind of used for that. So I know that last time at our meeting we kind of talked about that. That's the only idea I have, like a common multi-purpose room, kind of like the one that we're in.
Anybody else? That's kind of,
One thought. I know when Miss Bailey was still on council, it was discussed. A group had come in, they had already, they could write their own grants to get this stuff started, and what they envisioned was, do you remember this, Ms. Zorb? Kind of like a grass patio or something up on the roof, and inside would be several little businesses that could bring in, you know, they could sell whatever it is. Not, I'm just gonna say crafts, but I'm sure that wasn't it. But it all seemed really,
It was hydroponics.
that's what it was. Right. So, I mean, they had some good ideas, but it just all fell through the cracks. The person in charge didn't want to carry through with them, I guess. I'm not sure what all happened with
money
them.
to do that. If you're especially, I said, that sounds like that could be a lot of money to do that, especially if you're talking about on the roof.
Well, they had grant money,
Yeah, they had all the funding.
yeah.
She
So,
had lawyers and financial folks and
I've looked
contractors.
through my paperwork.
She was
and I
all lined
can't
up.
find anything on her either.
I will say that with the recreation spin, I talked to Ms. Carter today, and she is willing to help us with, you know, people that want to help and help looking like funding. So we're going to need as many people as possible, but I think that none of the ideas are so far away from each other that we can't blend what it is that we need. But I think that economic development, economic developer, and even the other team,
The
comprehensive plan team, it's huge. So we have to work together to create the right outcome for North College Hill. So I just wanted to kind of get it out there that we want to get talks going. We'll use the three entities and kind of work together. I'll be setting up some more like meetings within the committee to do that, and for them to come and talk to us and for us to share our ideas. Mayor has some ideas also that she's thrown in there. So I just kind of wanted to put it out there to get you guys thinking and your juices flowing. Go ahead.
Well, I would like to have something like as far as exercise. I don't know, you know, because we don't have anything in the area, yoga or some type of exercise. And I don't know how much land is attached, just like the one lady who came in and spoke that time about a dog park. I don't know if we have area, you know, next to that. I don't know how far that area extends.
Well, and the issue too is now we have the impound lot behind there, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. So it kind of stinks because, you know, that land is big.
Yeah, as I said, a dog park would be nice somewhere in that area,
Yeah.
since we don't have that.
I don't know if you can hear me, excuse me. Chair. Along those lines, I think with the parks in general, I know we're already in flight on 2 of them.
Gotcha.
There are at least 2 to 3 other parks around that have recently maybe had updates. One of them I know we haven't touched in years. You know, so that's definitely something that I would, as a recreation person, be looking to get some public input, in particular from neighbors who would live nearby. And those ideas, that would be the forum to get those, any kind of parks ideas or things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, just looking at the comprehensive plan results.
Yeah.
That will be forthcoming, is what I'm.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll stick with yoga class there.
But yeah, I mean, that fits with what this says. I mean, civic screens, gardens, playground, dog park, and casual athletics were the top 5 things that people said that they wanted in their public spaces. But I think, too, I mean, it's hard when you limit it to, like, oh, this room's going to be used for this thing and this thing only. I think it's better when you have, like, a multi-purpose space that allows for things like yoga or for
Yes.
casual exercise. But too, I mean, if we have the outdoor area or the rooftop area to do like a civic screen, that'll be so cool.
And I can kick in some of the things that, so for me, like I've heard a lot of the ideas, which is, I'm kind of like in my mind putting them together. So I don't want to say that they're set, that just how I'm envisioning in it. Mayor Nichols wanted to do the recreation. And so if you guys have been down in College Hill, it's right by Aiken. It's at College Hill, and they've got they've got the track above like the basketball court. That gives walking space, and there's multiple activities that can go on at the same time. Then they've got the rooms back there. So this is like, I definitely want to make sure that we incorporated something recreational, which helps Annalise get us or potentially help us with funding, and then that can dual over to some other things. And so one of the things that I wanted to incorporate was something that brings revenue back to our city. And this is just one that's kind of near and dear and personal to me. My son travels everywhere for AAU. And there are lots of AAU, not exclusive to basketball. There's soccer, there's volleyball. Trust me, they are paying mega bucks to just rent out spaces. They will go anywhere because they want the availability. They have, so it's just, that is one component. I could go on about that forever. I won't. The other thing is like, I work corporately. People are always looking for awesome spaces to have corporate meetings Monday through Friday. So all of these things can exist at the same time if we have a very good space that serves multiple purposes, and it doesn't have to be difficult. Like maybe there's a rock climbing wall inside of the gymnasium. So a rock climbing wall goes a really long way for even just corporate spaces. They have some swings that can be added into a gymnasium. So you have projector in there with the let down basketball, volleyball nets that can be used, soccer equipment, even gymnastics for indoor spaces. Gymnastics is a huge one that they're always looking for places to host their
events.
Yes. And so sometimes even things like a wedding on Sundays, if the space is nice enough and can be decorated, it is endless. I feel like if we just invest in the space looking very nice and as much purpose as possible, I don't feel like we can lose. The other thing is I wanted to pick up, I think what you said about the plants and the
Hydroponics.
yes. So like Mr. Mosby had put out there something like a flea market, an indoor flea market. Maybe that looks like once a month, or just some of the other spaces.
Yeah, I know. I brought that up.
Yeah,
That's part of like Newport does that with their old Barnes and Noble. They open up the space, and small businesses can rent the space to do like a little flea market area.
Yep, and then you'll have like maybe like hair salon, barbershops, back to school things. The school may even say, "Hey, we want your space for X, Y, and Z."
Yeah, like
and
Christmas events too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, I guess what I'm hearing and wanting to propose is that we kind of work towards a space that can be used for lots of different reasons.
Yes.
And the reason I'm kind of putting it out there is because I want your minds to be really, really open to all of the kinds of things that we can add. And I feel like with Annalisa's help with the recreation piece, a lot of that can help cut some of our cost, because we can use it for dual purpose recreation, and then it cuts down on how much we actually pay out for some of those things.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am. And if we talk to some of the experts, they may have some better ideas, because really, really, along with council chambers and all of that other stuff, we need to make the building functional. We need to make sure it's a place where people can go and breathe healthily, and we want to make money. We need another money-making source for our city.
We do.
Well, and if I may interject, if we're inviting, potentially creating a space that is attractive to outside groups, it also helps support our local hospitality, our restaurants.
Right.
I don't know if we have any bed and breakfasts nearby except for 6 Acres, but those kinds of industries as well would develop nearby by virtue of the fact that we are able to attract some of these
Right.
things to our area.
And the other thing, yeah, very true, all of that is like in my notes. And the other thing, I think Mr. Mosby, I know he told me this, but I'm not sure the source of it. It was the naming rights. Like, we have Procter & Gamble, which I worked there for years. I know they're always looking for places. And they like, not just them, but all places, like kind of funky things like the rock climbing wall. I can remember going to an event center that had something like that. You know those big, like, I don't know, they just look like pieces of cloth where you get in them. They like I just remember like doing that, and it had knots in it, and you had to like climb up it with your team member.
Yeah.
Team
In our
building.
It was a
last-
lot,
yeah.
but it was just like those little things.
In our last committee meeting, we just talked about the adaptive sports. I know Clever Nook does a lot of work with that. I mean, even I wonder if we could also do something like that, like have the, like, I know rock wall climbing is a big part of adaptive sports. Maybe asking Clever Nook if they want to sponsor.
And I was
part
just
of
getting ready to
that.
say,
Yeah.
tapping into some, like, I know it seems really, really big. I'm not
Got to
taking away,
dream big.
but I feel like we can hone it down later. Let's shoot for the stars for now, and as we
Right.
go, just pick up little nuances like handicap spaces, disabilities in special ways that, other communities. We have Clover Nook right here. We definitely want to do something in there for them, because they, care about us as a city, and we want to reciprocate that. So all of that stuff I feel like is helpful, useful, and I don't want to skip the naming rights, but like when you have people who have the ability to have some naming rights to rooms or whatever spaces, that helps us financially also. So we're looking for discounts any way we can get them in order to curb our big cost that is coming up. So that's that. I mean, here's the truth, and I'll say this probably every single meeting. We have to do something with it regardless, even if we tear it down. It just can't sit there. It's only going to get worse. So whether in this process, if we can just keep that in mind, something has to happen with that building one way or the other. So I feel like we should just lean into making it better for our community, our city.
Well, and I think too, I mean, we talked about this before. It's pretty rare that a city functions totally out of pocket, which is how we've been doing to try to pay off a lot of our debts that we've had. So I mean, if we have a solid plan for this, where it's going to be, revenue based, and we're going to have income from it, I don't think that it's unrealistic, at least in my opinion, to have a debt to help make this better. I mean, it's pretty crazy to me that that a city wouldn't have debts.
We do have debts.
Right, but I mean, to be very weary of taking on more when we have the ability to. You know, pay now, or I mean, get the price now and pay it later when it's cheaper now.
But well, I hear you. And I guess, I don't know, I guess what I hear Ms. Anderson saying is that she's speaking to the, I guess, not wanting to deal with any further debt.
Yeah.
What other options are there, though?
I think it's the depth of the debt is where my concern is.
And that's fair, which is why I would like to get aggressive at some of the other things that curve our debt to make it more reasonable for us. Because here's the flip of it for me, and I kind of gauged that in the room that there's like a little bit more convincing, and maybe you won't be convinced if you're there, and I'm not, accusing anyone, but what else can we do? And when I say what else can we do, we need revenue as a city. We cannot sustain on the current budget in a growing, more costly economy. Things are coming up. This is part of our job to help develop our city, to bring in resources to keep our city nice and to even improve what we have. That's part of where we are.
Can I take a couple minutes to say something? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. I do want to say, I think she was next because she was
Oh,
trying
I'm
to.
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well,
that's fine.
it kind of defeats what he's going to say. I was going to say, at this point, I feel like this is all kind of nebulous, and because we don't know what we're talking about yet. We don't know what money. We don't know what we want to do. So I guess in my mind, I was just going to say, can we move on? Because
sure.
I mean, at this point, it's just.
Well, it's on the agenda.
I feel like we're beating a dead horse at this point. We've talked about it a long time, but there's nothing concrete. I guess I work in IS, so I deal with data and facts all day long, and I feel like we have none of that here. This is all just a dream at this point. And until I have facts, I can't make a decision without facts.
And I'm not agreed 100%. I'm not, I guess, proposing that we make a decision, but we have to start making some choices on how to go forward to get to the point where we can get some hard facts. So that's the only reason why I said it was on, you see my notes, it's on my notes to put out their purpose, because we need to start thinking about it to get something together, and other people will be better at other parts of the pie than some people will be good at the ideas part, some people will be good at the hardcore numbers part, and that's fine, but we can't skip it. So that's all. It was on the agenda for tonight. So you're right, we spent a good amount of time, and it's definitely after his comment trying to move on. So go ahead.
And I only want to take a couple minutes because there were a couple points that were brought up that are important. I do agree, first of all, and as an administrator I would say this, the current debt that we have, or the bonds that we have, were bonds that were used to support and improve infrastructure specifically. In other words, it was heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Everything was kind of geared toward the building that we're in, or the property that we're on. So it also included, for example, the fuel tanks and the salt bays or the salt bins that we have. So none of those things generate revenue. So to that extent, I would wholeheartedly agree with Ms. Zorb in the sense that I don't know that we would want to incur any further debt that is simply an infrastructure expense where there is no corresponding revenue. The difference that I believe that we're talking about here is what you're saying, is that the debt that we're talking about would be specifically designed to generate revenue. What would be important in that discussion is what kind of revenue. In other words, the purpose, as you pointed out, is very important, and that is important for bond purposes. If we ended up purchasing bonds, for example, of, let's say, $2.8 million, and we anticipate that the improvements that we're going to make are such that we can generate revenue to cover the debt service on those, that would be good debt for us to have. And it would certainly be under the threshold that we have. You all already had the report that you saw that we actually have by law that we can have up to 5.5% of unvoted debt. We're well under that threshold right now, so we have plenty of room for that. If we are looking at economic development, specifically that we're talking about if people are leasing spaces out or things like that, that would influence the type of debt that we would have, meaning would it be, in other words, if bond investors, would they invest in tax-free bonds or would they be taxable bonds? And so the purpose that we do decide is going to determine what kind of debt we would be able to issue. But I do think it is important to understand that, yes, the objective should be that whatever debt that we do incur, it would be debt that would be what I would consider to be good debt, meaning that we would be able to have revenue that would be able to cover the debt service. Long story short.
Thank you. Okay, so I need someone to make a motion, please.
I make a motion, we go into executive session. Is that what you mean?
Do we have to say
Actually, I need to
what
know,
discuss?
I don't know the purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you make the motion?
I don't know.
Yeah, you can, I think.
All right. I make a motion that we move into executive session to talk about the resignation of a public employee and the firefighters collective bargaining agreement.
I'll second that motion. All right, we're good.
All right. resuming with our agenda for budget and finance, which is old business. I know I personally had something on old business, but it can wait because my computer has died, I believe. Does anyone else have any old business?
You said sorry, you said you had some old business, but you're gonna wait.
Yeah, actually, I know what it is. I have it in my notes. And it's not in old business, it is in new business. So, if you guys don't have any old business, we'll resume to new business. Okay? And for me, the new business is just that we are receiving at the end of July, the second installment for the Recovery Act funds.
Right. Actually, they're estimating it should be this week, the 15th.
And that is, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that we were receiving that second installment.
Do we have that dollar amount?
It's the same as the first, $486,000.
Thank you. And if that is all, then I would like to adjourn at 9:36.
I'll second.
All right.
Well, if you